All right, let's talk about the left hand. Just a quick review of what we're talking about here. We've got our strings starting at the bottom. We count from the bottom, so our thinnest string, or string that's closest to the ground, is string number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to our thickest string, and the string closest to our nose, which is the 6th string. And then we've got our frets, fret 1, 2, 3, and so on. So we're starting back here at 1. So for our very first chord, you have a G. So I think you've already played that a little bit, but let's just review. Our middle finger on the 6th string, or thickest string, at the 3rd fret. Pointer finger at the 5th string, or 2nd thickest string, at the 2nd fret. And your ring finger at the 1st string, 3rd fret. And turn your wrist just a little bit to the side rather than having it be straight up and down. That'll make it easier to play. I find that this gets kind of uncomfortable, but if I just turn a little bit, not trying to throw my wrist out way in front, but just turning the wrist just a little bit, just tilting. And then you have your nice strum. So a couple of things to review about if you're not getting a good sound. Just go through one string at a time and just double check each string. Oop, that bottom string is not sounding good, so I gotta check. The bottom string here is my ring finger, so maybe I need to press a little harder. That's one thing to check. The other thing is my finger tall? So you can see how it's I'm not kind of on the side. I'm not using the fleshy part. I'm using the very tip right underneath the fingernail to press. And then the other thing to check is are my fingers as close to the fret as they can be? So if they're way back here, get some muddy sounds, whereas if I'm closer, get a nicer sound. So those three things: fingers tall, using the very tip, up close to the fret, and giving it some decent pressure. Cool. So that's your G chord. You can also play it with your pinky on the bottom string at the 3rd fret and your ring finger on the 2nd string at the 3rd fret, and the other two fingers stay the same. So that's another option. This one or this one without the pinky. Either one's fine, whichever you feel best about. Cool. Then let's talk about switching to our next chord, to a C. So in order to go to a C, there's a lot of movement. So this is a nasty switch. You've probably practiced this a bit already, but let's talk about it. My recommendation is start with your pointer finger and just practice going from a full G chord to your pointer finger at the 2nd string, 1st fret. And just do that like over again, and see if you can just lock that in. Try it a bunch of times looking at your finger, and then try it a bunch of times with your eyes closed. See if your spidey senses can just feel where that spot is without even looking. Then once you've got that down, you have your pointer finger down, your middle finger is going to reach up to the 4th string, 2nd fret, and your ring finger is going to reach up to the 5th string, 3rd fret. Again, double check that you're as close to those frets as you can. Final pro tip with this: use your thumb to mute this thickest string. It just reaches over. It's not all the way over to like press down on a fret. You don't want to have a note happen there, but you do want it to just kind of create that thunking sound. That way, you get that lovely note as your lowest note of the chord, and that sounds really nice. Just a thought. It just makes it sound a little bit nicer than if you have that extra note in there, which just sort of muddies it up just a little bit. Cool. So just go back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if that's too fast to switch between, just take it at your own speed. There is no shame in doing it really slow and really carefully, being sure that your fingers are close to the frets, that they're nice and tall, and they're going exactly where you want them to go. Eventually, this will start to feel like muscle memory, but it's going to take a little while. And that's all right. Take as much time as you need to just get that feeling. By the way, when you're going back to your G chord, so if you're starting at your C, think about which finger wants to go down to that G chord first. For me, it's my ring finger wanting to go all the way down to the bottom string, and then the other two fingers find their place with this anchor point. So if that works for you, that I could recommend that. I know some other guitarists usually really like to use their middle finger first. So the very first step would be to move the middle finger from here on the 4th string all the way up to that 6th string at the 3rd fret, and then set the other fingers down. So that's setting the middle finger down, and then the other fingers find their place after that. Really taking your time and working through that is awesome. I can't recommend it enough. So the last chord we're going to have to switch to is from a G to a D chord. So when you switch to a D chord, the first thing I'll recommend that you move is your pointer finger. So it's up here on the 5th string, 2nd fret. It's going to stay on the 2nd fret, but it's going to move 2 strings down to the 3rd fret. I'm sorry, to the 3rd string. Then middle finger on the same fret, the 2nd fret, but on the 1st string. And then you're finishing the little triangle shape pointing down towards the body of the guitar with your ring finger on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. Then when you strum that, try to only get the bottom 4 strings if you can. Try not to get these thickest strings, because that just kind of muddies the sound again. It doesn't sound as nice as if you get that nice bright sound there. And again, you can use that thumb to just kind of mute that string, so that even if you accidentally get the thicker string, it doesn't sound. So after you go to your D, so practice that a bunch of times. G, move your pointer finger down to the 3rd string, set up your other fingers, strum it. Go back to your G, pointer finger moves down to the 3rd fret, 3rd string, I keep on messing that up, back to there. Finally, once you've got that down, I'm going to move to your C. Again, this pointer finger is going to be your key here. Pointer finger is going to move up a fret and down a string. So we're here at our D position. Pointer finger is going to move to the 2nd string, 1st fret. So practice that a couple times. Just go from your D position up to there. D position, up to there. D position, up to your 2nd string, 1st fret. Then once you feel confident with that, start adding in those other 2 fingers. D, and then add in your middle finger, 4th fret, 4th string, 2nd fret, and ring finger, 5th strings, 3rd fret. And then finally we end on a G. So those are all the switches that you'll need to practice. And really take your time practicing them. There's no shame in that. In fact, I can't recommend it enough. Be really deliberate about how you're placing your fingers, keeping your fingers nice and tall and close to the frets, so that as you make those switches, you can kind of do them without having to reset once you're there. Cool. Then it's just a matter of putting them together with your strumming pattern. We'll talk about that in a moment.